This is Gemara Baba Basra, Daf Kof Non Aleph, and all the learning should be an incredible zchus Rafua Shlema for Tinok ben Miri Ahuva B'Siyata D'Shemaya, the Koyach HaTayra, the Zchus HaTayra, Talmud Torah Kenegi Kulam, should bring the ultimate Yeshua and Rafua Shlema B'Karev. We're holding on Kof Non Amid Beis. We're on the second wide line, and we're in the middle of it, dissecting a longer brisa, a brisa that we quoted at the, further up in the Amid, in which it discussed what is considered possessions, and most notably, we're up to shtari. We're on the second wide line, in which the Gemara says, shtara ikri nechsi. Shtarais, a shtar is called a property. Where do we see this from? Rav Yitzchak Shnei Shtarasin. There are two types of shtarais, teaches Rav Yitzchak. Omer zachu b'sad zelaplaini. Someone says, Bizaycha, acquire this field for Pliny. And he says, first be kind and then write a star for him. Chayzer b'shtar, he can back it to the star, but chayzer b'sadik, because he's already kind in it. But if he says be kind for the other guy, alminas shetechtevu, if he says be kind in it on condition, then you write the star. Then chayzer bein b'shtar bein b'sadeh. Then you could be chayzer bein b'shtar, bein b'sadeh. So says the Gemara, there's two different types of shtarais, and based on whichever case you said will dictate exactly what is the halacha. If you made the ksivas hashtar dependent upon the kinyan, then it will be such, and if not. That is opinion number one of Rabbi Bar Yitzchak. Rav Chiya bar Abba Amar Rav Huna shloisha shtarasim, on the last line. He argues and he says there aren't two different shtarais like you, Rabbi Bar Yitzchak said, but rather, says Rav Chiya bar Abba, there are three types of shtarais. Trey, two of them hadamarin, or like we said. Idach, what is the third type of shtar? Im kadam moicher v'kosavis hashtar. The third type of shtar is that if the moicher came and he wrote the shtar, ke'oisa sheshaninu. He wrote the shtar like we learned in a Mishnah as we turn over to Kof Nun Aleph Amud Aleph, explains the Gemara what is ke'oisa sheshaninu, like that which we learned in a Mishnah. Koisvin shtar le'meicher, that we write a shtar for the meicher afal pi, even though she'in lekech imai, we're allowed to write a shtar from the meicher, even though the lekech is not with him. I apologize, we're having some cursor issue over here. Okay, because the shtar le'meicher afal pi she'in lekech imai. Then the halacha is, this is the third type of shtar, says the Gemara. Then kivshich zeb karka nikne shtar kol makom shu. Then the two are so intrinsically linked. Not only could you not back out, but it's an absolute kinyan when you're koine one, automatically there's a kinyan on the other. V'zui sheshaninu, and this is where we learn the chasim, she'ein la machrayis metalklin ar, nickname in the chasim, she'ish la machrayis b'kesef, b'shtar u'b'chazaka. So these are three different types of shtarais, says the Gemara, three different ways in which shtarais have a din am nachasim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol. Continues the Gemara. Again, continuing discussing what is called nachasim. Says the Gemara, behema ikri nechsi. Behemas din am nachasim. Did not learn to the Mishnah. Ha'makdish nechasav. If someone gives properties to Beis Hamikdash, v'haisa behem behema ru'uya legabi mizbeach. And amongst his properties, there are animals that are ra'i to go up on the mizbeach. Zacharim, the halacha is, if they're male animals, oilais, then they're carbon oila. Nekevais, if they're a female animal, then yimachul l'sarches ivchei shlam, they're sold to buy the shlamim, oifais, and that's behema. Next case, oifais ikri nechsi. Birds have a status of nechasim. D'tanan. We learned in a Mishnah, Hamakdish Nechasav, similar Mishnah, so is Makdish Nechasim. Vayimim Dvar Maruyan Legab Mizbeach. And amongst his Nechasim, his items that are raw even the Mizbeach, what does he have? Yenois, Shemanim, Vaifais, wines, oils, and birds. Then the halacha is that it goes to the Mizbeach. So we see that Vaifais have a din of Nechasim. And we continue 10 lines down. The first one line is Shmanim. Tefillin ikri nechsi d'tanan hamakdish nechasav. Ma'alnoi tefillin. The tefillin are given to the Beis HaMikdash. So all different proofs and rayos that all the aforementioned items, tefillin, eifos, behema, multiple types of shtarais, they have a din of nechsi. Continues the Gemara, all the above were pashut. Now continues the Gemara, Ibayilu, a shayla, Sefer Torah Mai. Apologize, we're having some issues today. Says the Gemara, what is the status of a Sefer Torah? Does the Sefer Torah have a status of Nechasim or not? Again, I apologize. I don't know why our camera keeps flickering. Let's hope that fixed it. Says the Gemara, Sefer Torah Mai, Kivan Deloy Mizdabin. Do we say that since a Sefer Torah you're not allowed to sell it, therefore, Dasul is Dabin Lav Nechsehu? Or maybe, Kivan de Mizdabin, you're allowed to sell Sefer Torah in very unique scenarios. For example, Lil Moy Torah, to learn Torah, Velis Isha, to get married, therefore Nechsehu, therefore maybe does the Din of Nechasim. Says the Gemara, Teiko, we're going to have to wait for Anavi for that one. We continue 3 lines from the Y lines, and we quote a Siman again. A big shout out to Zichru. Many people have reached out. The Baruch Hashem, they've joined or they've tried. They've seen how a few minutes a day, a unique Siman has helped remember and concretize so much of the Gemara. We continue. 3 lines from the Y lines, and we're going to go back into the Sugya. We learned the Sugya of Mavreches yesterday, which was a woman who's getting remarried and she doesn't want her new husband to have her properties. So she gives these properties to a third party so that the new husband has no power over them. Says the Gemara, Ime de Rav Zitra, the mother of Rav Zitra bar Tovia, Kasvinun Lenichse Rav Zitra bar Tovia. She signed away all her possessions to her son, Rav Zitra bar Tovia. Rav Zvid, that he planned to marry Rav Zvid. In Nisva, the Gersha. What happened? She married, but then he divorced her. So what happened is now she wants to get back the properties that she gave to her son, but the son didn't want to give it to her. He only did it because she wanted to get married. And Lamaisa, she got married. So she has no claim to the properties right now. You're saying things that are full of nothingness. Says the Gemara, that's only if there was no Gilui Das. You didn't show why you're doing it. But over here, you've shown, you're doing it because you want to get married. When you got married. So says the Gemara, it was very clear that it was contingent on that. And therefore, because you got married, there's nothing you could do. And you don't get back the properties. And you got married and you got divorced. Therefore, you showed you want to do it because you're hoping to get married. But now you got married, but then you got divorced, so you clearly want it back. Therefore, we're going to give him back to you. End of story number 1. Story number 2 in the 5th line. At night, write all her properties to Rami Bar Chama. Basra in the morning, in the morning, she changed her mind. She wrote them all the way to Rav Bar Chama. So also Rami Bar Chama with Rav Sheishes. Rav Chama comes in front of Rav Sheishes. So Rami Bar Chama comes to Rav Sheishes. Sheishes says, Rami Bar Chama, you got it first, you're the owner. Also Rav Bar Chama comes with Rav Nachman. And he says, and then Rav Nachman said, no, you, Rav Ukvar, are the owners. Says Gemara, what's going on over here? So also Rav Sheishes, like I made Rav Nachman, so Rav Sheishes and Rav Nachman, each coming with their psak halacha, come together. Amar lei, my time Rav Ukvar Chama, why did you give it to the second guy, Rav Ukvar Chama? Imisham the Hadraba. If you're going to tell me because she was chayzer, but she died. She died, so she clearly wanted the first person she gave it to. Amar le, Yachi Amar Shmuel, Kol Shi'ilu Amar Chayzer, Kol Shi'ilu Amar Chayzer. If any scenario in which if the person who was sick gets better, Chayzer b'man nasai, then you're able to back out in your matana. So over here, you're right. She did die. But because she was Chayzer and she gave it elsewhere, she has the ability to be Chayzer. Because she has the ability to be Chayzer, therefore says the Gemara, that's the reason why he paskind that it goes to the second Rav Ukva bar Chama. But Rav Shesha says back, no. When did Shmuel say they can be Chayzer only to yourself? If you want to keep it, Lacher mi Amar, do you ever see you could give it to someone else? Amar Leir of Nachman says back, no, guess what? Beferish Amar Shmuel, Bein La'atzmai, Bein Lacher, in any case, you're able to be Chayzer, and therefore that's the reason why you paskin it goes to the second Rav Ukva bar Chama. And a third story, Imei de Rav Amrim Chasida, the mother of Amrim Chasida, Havale Maluka de Shtara, had a pouch of Shtaris. When he's dying, Amra Lehave Amram. As she's dying, she said, let the pouch go to Amram Bri, Amram, my son. Also, Achvula commander of Nachman. So the brothers came from Rav, they want a part of it. Amruleh, they said to Rav Nachman, Mashach, he never did a Mashiach, so we could have a kinyan in these shtarais. Amruleh, Rav Nachman says, as we've seen so many times, the word of Shchimer, as if they're given over, even without a kinyan, he already has a kinyan because it was the matzav of a Shchimer. And another story, Achtu Rav Tivya bar Rav, the sister of Tivya bar Rav Masna. 5 lines from the bottom, because we know the next day the Rav Tivya bar Rav. So the sister signed all the property to Rav Tivya bar Rav Nasma Basra in the morning. Lepanya in the evening. Lepanya also Rav Achtavai bar Rav Masna Bachala. Rav Achtavai bar Rama comes in the evening, and he's quite upset, and he's crying. And Amar Allah, he says to her, Hashta Mar Sormi Mirabanan. Hashta Mar Sormi Rabanan Umar Lav Sormi Rabanan. People are going to say, one is a Talmud Chacham, one isn't a Talmud Chacham, this isn't nice. So she felt bad, and Kasinu Nialei, she wrote it. So also came to Rav Nachman, and now we have to figure out who's the owner. Amar Le Yachamar Shmuel Kil Shalom Chayzer Man Nasa. He's able to be Chayzer, therefore goes to the second person. Finally, one more story. 2 lines from the bottom. Ach, they Rav Dimi bar Yosef, the sister of Dimi bar Yosef, Haver Le Piskisa, had a piece of a pardes of an orchard. Whenever he got sick, she would transfer it over to Rav Dimi bar Yosef, so he could have a kinyan in it. We turn over to Kufnan Aleph Amid Beis, and says the Gemara, and then every time she would get better, apparently she had health problems that she continuously fluctuated. I'll just be she was chayzer. In the Chada one time, Chalsha, she got sick. So she sent to him, Takani, come make a kinyan. Shalach, he said back, Lobina, nah, I don't need it, I don't want to come. Shalach, she says, Takani, please, Kalecha device. Come and make a kinyan however you want. If you want to make a kinyan anyway, make a kinyan. So Azal, Rav Dimi goes, when he comes, he says, I don't want only the entire pardes, but Azal Shire V'Kanamine, leave a little bit for yourself. And he then goes and makes a kinyan. So this time she gets better, and guess what? Hadrava, she wants to be chayzer. But Asla Rav Nachman, he comes to Rav Nachman, Shalach Lei. Rav Nachman says to Rav Dimi, Ta, come. Are you not the one? Excuse me, he didn't come. Amar, why should I come? She kept the bar for herself, and then I made a kinyan, and therefore the halacha is I get to keep it. Rav Nachman said back, says if you don't come, I'm going to hit you with a thorn that doesn't draw blood. I'm going to put you into chayrim. Okay, so finally Rav Dimi comes. Amrul Lisadi, hey Chave Ma'isa. So Rav Dimi shows up. Rav Nachman says, "No, what was the story?" Amrulay. So the Eidim said, "Amra Hachi Vaidikam Misa Hachitza." The woman sent for her brother. She said, "Oi, I'm sitting and dying, and my brother's not going to even come and see me." Amar Lahu, Rav Nachman said to them, Imkein, have a mitzvah, machmas, mitzvah, machas mitzvah. She's giving it away because she's afraid of dying. Mitzvah, machas mitzvah, chayzer. So the Maisa, she was able to be chayzer, even though he made a kinyan. And she had a shayara. But because the Maisa, she expressed that she's only doing it because she's dying, says the Gemara, she's able to be chayzer, and that was the psak halacha. Connected Rav Dimi, and Rav Dimi lost the rights to this pardes. Continues the Gemara, Itmar. Matnas shchimara b'mixas. If a shchimara, someone dying, gives away part of his property, it's about 14 lines down. First one line is matnas. Amrua Rabbanan kamei de Rava mishmei de Marzutcha brei de Rav Nachman. The Amar mishmei de Rav Nachman. Harei kimanas bari. If someone doesn't give away everything, it's a din of a manas bari. What? Harei kimanas shchimara. And it's like a manas shchimara. It's partial like this and partial like that. What does that mean? Explains the Gemara. Harei kimanas bari shemamad ein chayzer. You can't be chayzer because you only give away part of it. Harei kimanas shchimara. What? Lo by kinyan. You don't need to make a kinyan. So this is in a scenario that you give away part. So Amar Lahu, Rava. So Rava said to Lechamim, Lava Mino Lechu. Have I not told you, Lo Sikla Buki Sariki? Rav Nachman. Don't hang empty pictures on Rav Nachman. Don't say that Rav Nachman says these ridiculous dinim. Hachi Amar Rav Nachman. So said Rav Nachman. Arei Kimanas Bari. As a regular din of Manas Bari, and Ubaya Kinyan. In reality, it needs a Kinyan. So says the Gemara, Rav Nachman holds that a shchimara lemaisa has a din of a bari, klabi is matan, and he has to make a kinyan. So Eisi Rav Nachman, and with this we're going to conclude. We're back in the middle of the mid. First word online is Ubaya Kinyan. Rav asked Rav Nachman, what did our Mishnah say? Yishakar kol shuman asakayem as my love. The loikanamine. We see it's a good kinyan. Says the Gemara, so it's not like a manas bari. Like the kanamine. Says the Mariachi, if he was kind of him, say, but Avad, if there was a kinyan, why is not a good matana? Why is not a kinyan? Amar lei, Hachi Amar. Nachman responds, Hachi Amar Shmuel, Shchemer, Shekatzik Lachas Lachirim, Afal Pi Shekana Miyade Amad Chayzer. Once it's clear that it's only because machmas misa, therefore you have to be chayzer. We'll start over here. We'll pick it up from here. B'siyata dishmai.